Hey guys, Dirk here again on the MGTOW solution. You know, there's a reason more and more men are going MGTOW every day. Actually, there are a lot of reasons. There's the positive things that we gain, like independence, autonomy, and control of our own lives. And then there's the negative things that we avoid, like all those obligations that we're expected to fulfill while usually getting nothing in return. Obligations like chivalry, for instance. According to Merriam-Webster, chivalry is defined as mounted men at arms, or the qualities of the ideal knight, or a gallant and distinguished gentleman. Notice that there's nothing actually in there about putting women on pedestals. I was kind of surprised to see nothing about opening doors, pulling out chairs, and picking up dinner checks. But we all know what a modern woman is talking about when complaining that chivalry is dead. She means that men are no longer treating her as special, or that nobody's spending money on her. The term has lost its original meaning as a descriptive term referring to honorable men of arms. Now, it's all about her. The interesting thing is that most women fail to understand why chivalry has pretty much died, and immediately chalk it up as yet another problem with men. The cause and effect is completely lost on them. They lament the fact that fewer and fewer men are willing to put up with their entitled princess attitudes, and they fail to see the correlation between feminism and the death of chivalry. I'm sure that if you could graph the rise of feminism and the decline of chivalry, you'd see a direct inverse relationship between the two. And of course, this goes back to the faulty feminine premise that men and women are the same, but at the same time, that women deserve better or are actually superior to men. Equal rights but not responsibilities, with a bit of special privileges thrown in because after all, women are special. And the men are protectors and providers argument keeps rearing its ugly head, probably because more men are waking up and taking the red pill, or at least understanding some of those truths. But if men and women are the same, wouldn't that mean women should protect and provide for men? Or at least for themselves? Apparently not, but it is true that it's hardwired into our masculine nature. If you strip away all of the BS of the modern world and picture humans in their more primitive state, you can bet that if rivals or animals attacked a family or tribe, the men would protect it. In normal, healthy families, that's still the case. This is pretty much accepted as the natural order of things, and when it's convenient, women like to point this out. But the thing they don't want to talk about is traditional female roles, like being fully supportive and loyal to their men. That would include things like being faithful, and maybe even allowing your man to have sex with you, even if you're not really in the mood. I know, horror of horrors. Putting his needs first. Fucking gasp. Having such expectations is seen as not only unreasonable, but downright oppressive. So on the one hand, you're going to have to work your ass off acquiring resources, and if someone breaks into the house at 0:30, you're going to have to go deal with it. On the other hand, the woman will have to, make a sandwich once in a while? Fuck, that's a pretty good trade. Men make considerable sacrifices for their women and families and really don't expect much in return. Just maybe a little appreciation. The problem is that these days, most women don't have any gratitude, so they can't express any. It's pure entitlement. When talking about chivalry, we already know what the role of the knight is, and in modern times, that's always supposed to be a white knight. That is, one who's not a gallant and distinguished gentleman, but one who will jump through whatever hoops women direct him to jump through, without question. And the modern paradigm of chivalry suggests that there's always a damsel involved too. In the original definition, women had nothing to do with it, but modern chivalry doesn't even exist without women. The whole concept is now centered around them. So if the knight is expected to slay the dragon and fight all enemies to protect the damsel, what exactly is expected of her? Again, just a bit of gratitude. But we're not seeing it. It's more like the damsel approaching her knight, who's still bloody and exhausted from doing battle and killing the dragon, and instead of thanking him, she stands there with her hands on her hips, going down her list of demands. She'd tell the knight that he needs to keep fighting anyone or anything that's a threat to her, but he shouldn't expect her to help because that shit's risky and unpleasant, and she's more valuable than him. That he must treat her as his equal when it benefits her, as his inferior when it benefits her, and as his superior when it benefits her. In other words, when in doubt, he should just do whatever benefits her, and things will be fine. She'd emphasize that just because he slayed the dragon doesn't mean she owes him anything. That's in the past, so it doesn't really count. But he'd better be ready to do it again at any time. She'd also insist that he provide her with lots of stuff, pretty much whatever she wants. She'd demand the same respect that he has for his bravery because they're equals in all ways, and she deserves the same perks he has, whether she's earned them or not, because vagina. In her mind, this would be a mutually beneficial relationship. She'd benefit from the knight protecting and providing for her, and he'd benefit from doing the protecting and providing, because that's the traditional role for men, and so he'd be fulfilling his destiny. But she'd make it perfectly clear that he should have no expectation for her to do any of those traditional things that are expected of women, like putting out and making sandwiches. She may do those things once in a while, if he performs well, and she's in the mood, and there's some kind of benefit in it for her, but he shouldn't expect anything from her, because she wants chivalry, and that's his job. She'd let him know that these are her terms, and he can either take it or leave it. In this little scenario, the knight would be thinking, "Fuck you, you ungrateful bitch." But being genuinely chivalrous, he'd probably say something like, "No thank you, ma'am. Have a nice life." And the last thing the damsel would see is his horse's ass as he rode off into the sunset. Then she'd probably actually get angry at the knight for rejecting her, and she'd be perplexed by his actions, wondering how he could possibly turn her down. How dare him? The fact that he just saved her life would be completely forgotten. This is how the female mind works. After all, the purpose of men is to do things for women. Everybody knows that. I realize this analogy is kind of a stretch, but it looks to me like this is basically what's happening in modern society. Men have done a ton of shit for women, but they just keep demanding more until men have had enough and walk away. The damsel in this example is obviously a feminist, and modern women generally are more than willing to let vaginal justice warriors speak on their behalf. Hey, somebody tell me I didn't just make that term up. Anyway, chivalry is dead because feminism killed it. There are still white knights out there who are willing to let women have it both ways, but not as many as there used to be, and apparently there aren't enough to go around anymore. That's what's led to all this "where have all the good men gone" nonsense. Are women really that clueless? How could anyone be so out of touch with reality that they think good men have just somehow mysteriously disappeared? How can they look in the mirror or at all those endless selfies and not realize that they're looking at the source of their own problems? Where have all the good men gone? We know where we went. Off the plantation. Away from the gynocracy and towards a better future. Our paths may be very different, but the thing we have in common is our reclaimed freedom. Screeching harpies are no longer in our faces. They're in the rearview mirror. In the past, and as their nagging fades away, along with the gynocracy behind us, it's replaced by peace and quiet. That being the case, the future is looking bright for more and more men every day. Don't look back, gentlemen. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.